You ever stop and think about how many of our biggest decisions, well, they don't happen in a vacuum, right? Whether it's a huge business move or a simple negotiation, what you do often depends entirely on what someone else is about to do. This is the science of strategy, and it has a name: game theory.
So, let's make this real. Picture this. You run a great little coffee shop. You've got loyal customers, the whole deal. But then, your rival right across the street, they just slash their prices. So what do? Do you jump in and start a price war? Or do you hold your ground and bet on quality? It's a really tough spot to be in.
And that right there is the core of the problem, isn't it? Your best move is completely tangled up with their next move. If you cut prices and they just keep them low, you both might end up making way less money. But if you do nothing, you could lose a ton of customers. Your fates are linked. And this idea, this strategic interdependence, well, that's what game theory is all about.
So let's dig into that first big idea. At its very heart, game theory is the study of these interconnected decisions, where the outcome for you doesn't just depend on your choice, but on the choices of everyone else involved in the game.
So here's the official definition. But a simpler way to think about it is that game theory is basically a toolkit. It's a powerful set of tools for breaking down situations of competition and cooperation. And we're not just talking about board games here. We're talking about the logic behind real-world rivalries, negotiations, you name it.
All right, so to use this toolkit, we first need to understand the basic rules. See, in economics, a game isn't just for fun. It has a really specific structure. So let's break down the key pieces.
Pretty much any strategic situation you could think of can be broken down into these four things. First, you've got the players. Pretty straightforward. Who's actually making the decisions? Then you have their strategies. What are all the possible moves they can make? Third, the payoffs. What's in it for them? What does each player get for every single possible outcome? And finally, you've got the rules. Who moves when, what does everybody know, that kind of thing.
Now, this right here is so important. A strategy in game theory isn't just one move, like cutting the price of your coffee. No, a real strategy is a complete playbook. It's a full plan that anticipates every single thing your opponent might do and has a counter move ready for it. So now that we know what a strategy is, let's see how these plans play out in probably the most famous game of all time,
Which is, of course, the prisoner's dilemma. This simple little story is just brilliant because it shows the powerful and often kind of frustrating clash between what's best for you and what's best for the group. Okay, here's the setup. Two partners in crime, let's call them prisoner A and prisoner B, they get caught. The police put them in separate rooms. They absolutely cannot talk to each other. Now, the prosecutor comes to each of them with the exact same deal. If you both stay silent, you both get a light sentence, just 1 year in jail. If you confess and your partner stays silent, you walk free, but your partner gets 10 years. But, and this is the big one, if you both confess, you both get 5 years. So, what do you do?
To figure this out, we need a really key concept called a dominant strategy. This is the move that's best for you no matter what the other guy does. Let's look at it from prisoner A's perspective. If B stays silent, confessing is better, right? 0 years is better than 1. And what if B confesses? Well, confessing is still better. 5 years is a heck of a lot better than 10. So for both prisoners, confessing is the dominant strategy. And this is where the dilemma just smacks you in the face. The best overall outcome is if they both cooperate and stay silent. They'd only get 1 year each. But pure rational self-interest pushes both of them to confess, and they end up in a much worse situation, both getting 5 years. It's a classic trap.
Now, that outcome where both prisoners confess, it's not an accident. It's actually a super stable point in the game, and it has a very specific name in game theory.
So it begs the question, right? In this world of moves and counter moves, can we actually predict where things will land? Is there a point where everyone just stops because no one has a good reason to change their mind? And the answer is yes, there is.
It's called a Nash equilibrium, named for the brilliant mathematician John Nash. The best way to think about it is as the no regrets point. It's an outcome where no single player can look back and say, darn, I wish I'd done something different, given what everybody else did. And this reveals something huge. The most likely outcome of a game is not always the best one for everybody.
So let's pop back to our matrix. The Nash equilibrium is right here, in this box where both prisoners confess. Think about it. If they're both in that box, getting 5 years, can either one of them do better by unilaterally changing their mind? Nope. If prisoner A suddenly switched to staying silent while B is still confessing, A's sentence would shoot up from 5 years to 10. They would have major regrets. So they're stuck.
Okay, so why do we care so much about a made-up story about two prisoners? Well, because this exact same logic, this same dilemma, applies to an incredible range of real, high-stakes situations. Game theory is, and I mean this literally, everywhere.
In the business world, forget about it. Our coffee shop problem, that's a classic price war. Or think about cartels like OPEC. They're in a constant prisoner's dilemma. If every country limits oil production, prices stay high, and everybody wins. But each individual country is tempted to cheat and pump more oil for a quick profit, which can make the whole agreement fall apart.
And in politics, man, the stakes get even higher. The Cold War arms race was just a terrifying global-scale prisoner's dilemma. Both the US and the Soviet Union would have been better off not building insane nuclear arsenals, but neither side could risk being the only one to stop. You see the same logic playing out today with things like international climate agreements.
And believe me, this isn't some dusty old theory. It is more relevant today than ever. Just think about the constant war between streaming services for your subscription, or algorithmic pricing on sites like Amazon, where computers are literally playing these strategic games against each other thousands of times a second. Even cybersecurity is just a high-stakes game between attackers and defenders.
So, what's the big takeaway here? It's that understanding the basics of game theory is like having a secret decoder ring for the modern world. It helps you see the invisible rules and the hidden forces that shape competition and cooperation all around us. Which kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on. Whether it's a negotiation at work, trying to decide on a restaurant with a partner, or even just merging into traffic, what game are you in the middle of right now? And what's your dominant strategy?